Today, we'll talk about the best trading strategy again. So many people kept asking me about it. I'll be explaining what is the best smart money strategy in my opinion and how do I personally use it. I will end all the discussions. Then I'll explain how you can look for sniper scalping trades for high profits like a pro trader. We have so much to cover. If you're ready, let's start. Welcome our free trading course, all about price action trading strategies and smart money concepts. If you love scalping and day trading or even swing trading and looking for special trading strategies, check out my free trading course. You can find the links on Google Drive or directly from my website, which is in the description. Since I get many questions about the best trading strategy, let's continue to talk about the structure, liquidity, and the imbalance combos, which is the core of smart money trading. As you noticed, Bitcoin is in a downtrend recently and is being pushed down. But what is more important is how the trend come into form. Notice this imbalance and engineered liquidity below it. Price hunts it and strongly drops. Again, the exact same pattern happening here. Imbalance and engineered liquidity below it before a big drop. Then again, it keeps happening. So basically, Bitcoin keep doing the same pattern recently. A big fall with a large enough imbalance with an engineered liquidity before the next fall. With a very simple pattern that is based on structure, liquidity, and the imbalance. Before my trade, the Bitcoin looked like creating big impulses upward, but it got countered with a major fall. Then you can notice this again, this engineered liquidity right below the imbalance. However, this was not ordinary liquidity here. We will talk about it soon. Now switch to the 15-minute time frame. First of all, notice this giant breaker block, which eats up the imbalance. As one of my masterclass secrets, breaker blocks that eat the imbalances are much stronger. However, if you truly notice here, there is also a very tiny imbalance in 15 minutes. The price perfectly fills the imbalance and strongly drops. Let's talk about this liquidity area. First of all, there are two sessions here, Asia and London. If you notice this, perfect equal highs are also session high points. And price sweeps the session liquidity and hunts the equal highs with the swing failure pattern. Probably one of the highest quality liquidity sweeps that you can encounter. In this 1-minute chart, you can observe the far left of the chart to find more structures and add extra confluences to our trade. Now you can see that this giant last green candle is our order block before the big fall. So it is a very important order block. Why? Because it is inside the breaker block and collides with the imbalances. All these should give you extra confluences and make your setup much stronger. Now, as for the entry, after all those confluences and liquidity sweeps of sessions, I actually make the quick manual entry here with managed risk. There was a high chance of a very big and fast drop without a pullback. As you can see, the internal structure breaks here with this imbalance. This is probably the most amazing sniper entry point that you can take in your entire life. The perfect entry point, 10 out of 10 confirmations. As for the targets, as you already know, I love taking profits with the closest structures such as imbalances. I took big profits around these imbalances and left the rest for the runner liquidity. For a second, delete everything. And you can notice that what happens here is basically a power of 3 combination: accumulation, manipulation, and the expansion. And remember, I do not trade power of 3. I trade the best trading strategy available to me, which is the structure, liquidity, and the imbalance. Power of 3 is just a concept created by these 3. Since I was bored, I also started to check the altcoins out of boredom. And it is just amazing. Crypto, stocks, Forex, gold, futures, altcoins, name whatever you like. Even $1 penny stocks work the same. With this major break here, this giant imbalance left behind, as you can see. And right around the imbalance, guess what? Equal highs like structure again. Then the price sweeps it with a swing failure pattern and strongly reacts. After that, very strong displacement and internal structure break with another giant imbalance, price pullback. And you have your perfect entry point one more time here. Now let's have a much closer look at 5 minutes. Watch closely what happens. Price engineers the equal highs, then it is swept quickly. Then the imbalance happened right around the breaker block. Did you notice something? This is another small power of 3. Accumulation, manipulation, and the expansion. Same thing in all time frames, very basic fractal structure. So let me draw what really happened here. Price very sharply drops in high time frames and leaves behind a giant imbalance. Right around the imbalance, liquidity is being engineered. Then price sweeps the liquidity, also tapping the imbalance, and sharply drops again. When you switch to the lower time frames, you will notice that exact 100% same fractal structure happen. Price sharply falls and creates an imbalance again, then engineers the liquidity right around the imbalance. Price hunts it and starts the very big drop. I hope this video made some sense to you. How I use structure, liquidity, and the imbalance. These are my compasses. Where will I enter? Where will I target? Where will I place my stop loss? Everything I do is 100% guided by structure, liquidity, and the imbalance, the king of kings, and in my opinion, the best trading strategy. Okay folks, another adventure ends here. As always, all these trading methods are suitable for scalping, day trading, or even swing trading. I believe that it will be really helpful in your trading life. I hope you subscribe to the channel and like the video. Thank you, please take care and see you soon.